So, first of all, once again, I would like to start this segment. Yes, I'm going to be talking about this guy. I would like to start this segment by saying that I've said many things on my show, but I'm going to come clean. I am in talks with MSNBC. They're going to give me, in fact, recently Rachel Maddow is like quitting her show or whatever. So I'm in talks with MSNBC. They said that I'm in the running to replace Rachel Maddow on her show. They've given me an advance of several $1 million. And I also just bought a $1.9 million mansion. And so I'm just coming clean. These are my biases, okay? So hopefully the next time I talk about this guy, I will be doing so on prime time on MSNBC. And this is where I'm coming from. So Dore, Jimbo Dumbo, is at it again. He is sheepdogging people into the Republican Party. Let's watch.
So what were they really afraid of with Trump? They were afraid he wouldn't do this. That's what they were afraid of. They were afraid he wouldn't go along with them.
So my question is, what is this and them? I'm sure that there's context outside of this clip, but we'll find out.
Because he didn't come up in the Republican farm team. He didn't come up in the organization. He didn't have groomers, Trump. Trump didn't have donors for his whole life like everybody else. He was a donor. So he didn't owe favors like everybody else.
First of all, this is just wrong. Like, this is just not even true. Like, is Jimmy under the impression that Donald Trump funded his own campaign in 2016 100%? No, of course he had fucking donors. He made almost all of the donors his cabinet officials. So, what? First of all, factually wrong. But
couldn't control him like they could control everybody. So what they did was they concocted Russiagate, red baited him for 4 straight years, and impeached him twice. Because he didn't have his mind right. So if you were the anti-war person, you should have voted for Trump and the Republicans. That's what this means. If you're pro-war, you vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats.
I was trying to save abortion. That's why I voted for Biden.
Okay, so this fucking shit is crazy. Trump is the anti-war candidate? Trump is the what? And also, we really need to have a conversation about this Russiagate thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no fucking idea what the fuck Russiagate is even supposed to mean. At first, I thought Russiagate was people claiming that Russia meddled in the election or like did something and then made Trump win. Right? That's the original claim. And then, the Mueller report, people love that stuff. And people got really into it. Like, oh, Trump's going to go to jail. First of all, the rich never get held accountable unless they scam other rich people. So, but then we find out in the Mueller report and other areas that Russiagate was mostly correct. There were Russian troll farms. There were Russian attempts to meddle in the election. It's just factual. And if that triggers you, I ask you this. Do you think that all countries have free and fair elections without any outside interference from any other country? Do you think that the United States hasn't meddled in any other elections? I mean, my God, look at what happened in Venezuela over the last couple of fucking years. Jesus Christ, what a shit show. Look at Bolivia, for example. I mean, look at Chile in 1973 with the original and only actual meaningful 9/11 tragedy. You think the U.S. hasn't meddled in elections? You think the U.S. wasn't meddling during the downfall of the Soviet Union? What? Why on earth? Now, yes, did some Democrats get a little too obsessed with the Mueller report? Sure. Democrats and liberals are fucking dumb. They're just dumb. Sure. Duh. But this idea of just saying Russiagate therefore Russia did nothing wrong. It is documented that they had Russian troll farms. It is documented that they would buy up Facebook advertisements and sow disinformation in Facebook groups and other social media sites to try to get people to think that Trump is like some anti-war guy. That's factual. I'm sorry if that triggers you, but guess what? Facts don't care about your feelings, you fucking moron. But I have a question for you. The people that think that Jimmy Dore is some like freedom fighter, he's an independent thinker. What is this anti-war thing? I sincerely ask you, why? What Trump? It's not 2015. Trump has a first term. You can look at what Trump did in office. This is like, we don't need a time machine. We can just look at history. The assassination of Soleimani in Iran that almost launched us into a nuclear exchange, or a full fucking war with Iran. That's anti-war. Threatening to nuke North Korea. That's anti-war. That's the anti-war guy. Drone striking innocent children is the anti-war guy. Now again, my position is that the Democrats are garbage and the Republicans are garbage, but Republicans are slightly more garbage, and therefore I would vote for the lesser of two evils. That's my position, and you can disagree with that position, but if you're going to say that the Republicans are anti-war, then you're a fucking lunatic. You are a lunatic. You are fucking crazy. If you think Donald Trump and Mike Pence are anti-war, you are fucking insane. You are fucking insane. You are a dumb fuck motherfucker. Now, I also want to ask, why are they claiming that Joe Biden is pro-war? Let's ask this. Joe Biden has gotten out of Afghanistan. Yeah, sure. He oversaw a drone strike that killed 7 kids for no reason. But he did get us out of Afghanistan, let's be honest. Now, you can say that Trump set that up or whatever. That's fine, whatever. We got out of Afghanistan, okay? Joe Biden, other than a couple of drone strikes that happened to kill a dozen kids, it happens, right? You know, Obama killed thousands of kids. Trump killed thousands of kids. It happens. Every president's going to murder a couple dozen kids every once in a while. It happens. But outside of that, and I'm being a little sarcastic there, right? But this is just how the United States works. The United States is a terror state. The United States is a rogue state, okay? It's just honest. I'm sorry if that offends you. I would assume the Jimmy Dore viewers would be under that impression. But now, apparently, it seems that Jimmy Dore viewers are just completely right-wing now. But anyway. Joe Biden has severely declined and decreased the amount of drone strikes that the U.S. has been doing since he was inaugurated. If you look at drone strikes over the course of Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, it was massive escalation all the way until Biden. I'm just being, this is just factual. You can look it up. Now, again, did he reduce it to 0? Should he have reduced it to 0? Yes. And did he? No. But did he severely reduce the amount of drone strikes overall? Absolutely. And that, in my opinion, is good. Do you think if Trump won in 2020? He didn't. Trump lost in 2020. Joe Biden won the 2020 election. But do you think if Trump had a second term that he would have slowed down on drone strikes? But okay, all right. Now let's talk about why they call Joe Biden pro-war. Why they call the squad pro-war. And there's more clips here, by the way. But I just, real quick, before we get into that. This is because of Russia and Ukraine. Now, can we criticize NATO? Are we allowed to criticize NATO expansion after 1991? Sure. But guess what? Unless you're planning on building a time machine, we can't go back in time and say, hey, H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, settle down. But then also, we need to acknowledge what NATO is, right? And we need to acknowledge what right now is going on in Russia. Putin's regime in Russia is a terror state. Now again, the United States, also a terror state. But that doesn't make Russia any less of a terror state. So, why are they claiming that Democrats are pro-war? Because they are giving Ukraine military aid. Now again, Would I prefer the United States give Americans health care? Yes. But we don't need to pick and choose. Let's be honest. We don't need to choose Ukraine aid or COVID relief, Ukraine aid or healthcare. We don't need to choose that. We can get it all. And we should advocate for it all. But let's also, Ukraine aid makes you pro-war, right? That's their position. Okay? That implies, one, that Ukraine and Ukrainians have no rights or a right to self-determination or right to defend themselves, which is just dumb. Would you say that giving Afghanistan and Iraq aid during the illegal offensive invasion that the U.S. pulled was pro-war? If a country funded like resistance in Iraq and Afghanistan, would you call that country pro-war? In my opinion, if a terror state is invading your country, you have a right to defend yourself. If someone were to come in my house with a gun and threaten to shoot me, if I had an opportunity to fight back, I would. It's called self-defense. And again, if someone came in my house and threatened to shoot me, right, and I managed to get away and call my buddy on speed dial, and then he and his boys come over and help me out, it's still my right to self-defense, and it's their right to help me defend against an intruder. Now again, does the world suck? Yes. Does war suck? Yes. But to claim that self-defense is as bad as an offensive imperialist invasion makes you a lunatic. It makes you a fucking lunatic. Would I prefer if Ukraine didn't need military aid and Russia didn't invade? I would prefer that. I think everyone would prefer that, except for maybe Vladimir Putin. So, but my question is, what the fuck does that have to do with making, like, why would anyone vote for Republicans? Like, what is a Republican going to do that's going to facilitate less warfare in this world? Anyway, we got more clips here. Let's watch.
People are on the left. And so now look, and now they give a right-winger like DeSantis, who should be repulsive to people who are on the left. Now they make him attractive. And how are they doing it?
No. Again, I'm going to ask you who they is. A lot of people, now I'm a podcaster. I do this stuff every day. So one of the things about building a narrative on a podcast is that, you know, you need to use you need to build a narrative. You need to have bad guys. In Jimmy Dore's podcast, his world, his narrative, the Democrats are the bad guys. Full stop. There's no, you start from that point and work back from there. Right? So when he says they, it's a vague, like, Democratic establishment that has, but also the squad, like the left, like Bernie Sanders is also part of the Democratic establishment. Like, it's all vague. Yes, the Democratic establishment is horrible, and they need to be defeated at all costs. 100%, full stop. But lumping in AOC with Nancy Pelosi doesn't really do anything. And then saying that Ron DeSantis is to the left of someone like Bernie Sanders is fucking insane. It is insane.
Watch, here's what he says.
But clearly, our entire principles that the country was founded on, you cannot have a ministry of truth in this country. And so let's get real here. Let's make sure that we're doing things to benefit.
Ron DeSantis spearheaded legislation to fire gay teachers simply because they are gay. I know Jimmy Dore fans would be like, shut the fuck up, you goddamn child. Shut the fuck up. If you're a free speech person, if you're against the government telling you what you're allowed to say, then you should be against Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis saying, oh, we don't need a ministry of truth, while he's spearheading legislation to get gay teachers fired. He's not a free speech guy. In Florida, in order to be a teacher, in order to work in the public sector, You need to sign a loyalty oath to the government of Israel. If you say that you go to the grocery store and you purposefully don't buy products that were made in Israel, right? You are literally unable to become a public sector worker in the state of Florida. So, what?
Floridians and Americans, but we're not going to let Biden get away with this one. So we will be fighting back.
Ron DeSantis, his administration has banned 50 math books because of CRT, critical race theory. That's right. He is banning math books in the state of Florida because of critical race theory. This is who Jimmy Dore is calling the free speech guy now.
The Democrats are losing everybody who's gives a lick about liberty, freedom, it's civil rights. They're losing everybody. They try.
So the party that is waging a war on reproductive rights and waging a war on queer people, they are more in favor of liberty and civil rights? So the party advocating to ban gay and trans people from literally everything and to ban anyone from accessing reproductive health care, they're actually in favor of civil liberties? Now, you can say the Democrats are garbage at upholding civil liberties and protecting civil liberties. I agree. But to say that Republicans are the party of civil liberties requires you to be a fucking idiot. It requires. There is no exception. You need to be a dumb fuck motherfucker in order to claim that Republicans are the party of civil liberties. You have to be a complete dunderhead Neanderthal moron. That's the only option. That is the only fucking option. That is the only option. There is no other option on this, okay? To tell anyone, okay, that fucking Republicans are the party of civil liberties. Again, I mean, it's...
All of a sudden, we can't talk about Neanderthal DNA anymore.
I mean, Jimmy says he has a spinal injury, but hey, I just want to sequence that guy's genes. I'm just saying.
Tried to paint Trump, remember, during Black Lives Matter, that Trump was a crazy authoritarian who's going to send the army into the city. Well, now Joe Biden is doing worse. And so they're making guys like that look attractive. If you're for freedom, if you're for free speech and civil rights and liberties, who are you going to vote for? This guy or Joe Biden? Tough call, though, isn't it?
Now, again, we can criticize Joe Biden, right? We're allowed to. I criticize Joe Biden every single day on my show. But to say that Ron DeSantis is an alternative is irresponsible. Now, you can say that Joe Biden is failing utterly and that on some policies, Ron DeSantis could theoretically be better, but that is not endorsing Ron DeSantis. That is not endorsing either of them. It is responsibility. It is your responsibility as someone with 1 million YouTube subscribers to explain why both parties are corrupt, why all of these people are fucking losers. That is your job. But when you are telling people to vote for Republicans and saying that Republicans are anti-war and pro-civil liberties, you are giving away free propaganda for people that are going to destroy you. Or maybe not him, because he's not queer, right? So he doesn't have anything to worry about. But again, this fucking shit is crazy. This is crazy shit.
So what has happened here, in case no one's noticing, the parties have flipped when it comes to foreign policy. The Republicans used to be crazy war hawks, and you associate war hawkery with a right-wing position. Now the Democrats are the right wingers and the Republicans are the anti-war lefties. So that's all that's Republican right-wing red baiting bullshit. So what has happened here?
First of all, the idea that Democrats were anti-war, when? I'm curious, like, if someone were to call into Jimmy Dore's show or whatever and ask him, can you tell me when Democrats were anti-war? I'm curious. When? 1960s? Maybe? JFK? Possibly? I mean, not really, but, like, how? When? When were the Democrats anti-war? FDR? Before getting into World War II? But wait, no, they got into World War II. When were Democrats anti-war? In the 19th century? Oh, wait, no. In the 19th century, they were still fighting wars over killing black people, the right to kill black people. Democrats, and, again, this is when the Democrats were the party of the KKK, were committing coups in states like North Carolina and Arizona, massacring black politicians and taking over control of governments. So I'm just getting, like, if you want to talk about Democrats being anti-war, I'm curious. Now, can we say that there are some Democratic politicians that are anti-war and that they have been a caucus within the Democratic Party for all that time? Sure. Right? But unfortunately, they failed every step of the way to actually get us out of these wars or to actually stop us from getting into these wars. Unfortunately, I would prefer if people like Mike Gravel and Bernie Sanders, right, could have won those debates, but they didn't. They lost. But this idea that Republicans are anti-war because they don't want to send Ukraine aid? What? So, not sending Ukraine aid somehow makes the war end? Is that serious? Is that a joke? I'm just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, we can criticize Democrats and Republicans. I don't know why this guy is trying to sheepdog people into the Republican Party. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ludicrous. What we need to do is expand the anti-war caucus. I don't give a fuck what party they're on. But, typically speaking, Democratic voters are more likely to be against warfare than Republican voters, typically speaking. Right? So, I'm curious, if we're going to expand the anti-war caucus, what would be the best way to do so? Primary Democrats or primary Republicans? I mean, it depends on where you are. If you live in a heavily Republican district and you want to run as a Republican and you want to make your campaign about being anti-war and you just ignore all the other issues or pretend to be, pretend to be a crazy Republican and then as soon as you get elected, become normal again and then actually can't, be an anti... If that's your plan, all right, great. That's awesome. That's a really good idea. If you live in a Republican area, in a Republican district, and you want to run as a Republican, right? Okay. But that's not what Jimmy Dore is advocating for. He's saying that the Republicans we have right now are anti-war. Can you point to one? Because I'd be curious. These motherfuckers are crazy. Like, I need you to understand, these motherfuckers are insane. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone who is going to realize that Jimmy Dore is insane has already realized that Jimmy Dore is insane. But the guy's fucking insane. The guy is a fucking Looney Tune, man. I swear to God.
Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ